Okay, so I'm going to take a left turn here.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Hey guys, Mike Bradshaw, Creative Director here at VaynerMedia. This is part 2 of my interview with Steve Babcock, my boss. I'm here in Gary's office, everybody's boss. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. We're talking about social leadership in this one and giving a little bit of a background on Steve's journey to Vayner as well. So enjoy. What was your first job ever?
Like real job? Like where I got a paycheck?
No,
or
any job that you got a paycheck? Or just money?
Oh, okay. Well, my first
kind.
job was mowing lawns. Yeah, I mowed my lawn in Idaho. My dad paid me, I think I got $7 for the lawn, front and back.
That's pretty, oh, okay.
But then Mr. Butters, an older gentleman down the street, gave me $10 to mow his lawn, and his lawn, front and back, was smaller. So that was my first job.
Were there other lawns? Did you grow this business?
No, I had aspirations and dreams of like, I'm in the lawn care business.
The lawn king.
I'm in lawn, yeah, and but no, I never did. That job, that was when I was pretty young. I was like 10 or 11, and that was just some summer money to buy more like G.I. Joe action figures.
Low-key child labor.
Yeah. So I never really grew that beyond. Then I got into the first job that was from where I got paid from an actual corporation was I edited videos, orthoscopic surgery videos for my dad, who was the surgeon at the time in this small town. And the hospital just had tapes and tapes, and I guess people want their surgery videos,
Okay.
So I learned to edit. It's when I also started to get into video editing, which was something I was really interested in. And I'd need to take like a 4 to 6 hour surgery and cut it down to like a 20-minute thing. And my dad just sort of, basically like kidney stones, hernias, some of the basic things. He just taught me. He sat down, he's like, okay, so here's where I clipped that, here's where that gets cauterized. So I just learned. And
he was producing.
And it was pretty robotic, every surgery was pretty similar in space, and I would get $75 a video. And but as a high school, as like a freshman in high school, I was so lazy, I didn't and it was endless supply. I could have made so much money because I could make them in like 20 minutes. So I literally just could fast forward, clip, and I started to add like star wipes and music, This is back in the 90s, so I'd like produce them, and people were like, these are amazing. But yeah, I didn't make as many. But
there's no sarcasm on your face right now. You really did that.
Oh yeah, full on. I was like, and this is when like star wipe was the transition. I was like, star wipe to cauterizing. Okay, now we're gonna staple in the mesh. Okay, let me bring up the music. Oh yeah, I loved it.
There are licensing issues. I don't think that's ever going to air.
Who knows? Who knows? I'd love to go find those if I could.
Wow.
Get them on Netflix. Series of orthoscopic video surgeries. That was my first real job. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So I guess my next question was going to be, what was your first creative job? But it sounds like that was pretty creative. I mean, if you're star wiping.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be that. I mean, that was really it, though. And then till my first like creative job by title was technically junior copywriter. I had joined an agency to work in their mailroom while I was going to school, and a friend of a friend was like, "Here's a great, like, super flexible, awesome." It was like you kind of worked your hours. It was great. It was going to school, but that was my introduction to advertising as an industry. I never really thought about it, and it was cool. I was just like, "This is cool." There's like people wearing zany clothes, and like the walls were painted crazy. It was like, this is awesome. And but I also was like, oh wow, they're basically, they're making little videos and commercials and art. It was like all these things that I was interested in, but there was like, here's a place where all of these skills can be used that felt a little bit more attainable than being like a big major, motion picture movie director or something. It was like, here it is. So long story short, I was able to transition from the mailroom to being a junior copywriter there. And
I mean, that's great. You started in the mailroom, and now you're the CCO. You have the most C's.
I know, it does sound a little, it sounds like like it should be a really cheesy Hollywood movie, like
you transcended
mailroom to CCO, and in reality,
the least C's to the most C's.
And in reality, it'd be a bit of a snooze fest, I think. So,
okay, well, I mean, we all, anybody in the industry knows that what steps you take to, you're the junior copywriter. You work through the night and, leaving your mailroom job behind. But what was the first big idea you actually sold through? Because I've worked as a copywriter too. And we all would remember that one because you spend a lot of time getting your ideas, just trying to get your ideas chosen to even be presented. And then when they do get presented, people just take credit for them. Your creative director is just oh, this is my idea. And you're just sitting there going, no, you idiot. What was the first one what was your first big win? Can you remember?
Man, it's a good question. I mean, for some reason, I don't know if this is an accurate answer, but it's the thing that's coming to mind as you ask me the question, because I spent 10 years at various agencies, senior copywriter to ACD to CD and varying size. And, so there's a lot of selling and winning and things that was going on there. But for some reason, the one that you bring up was I left the Salt Lake City market as a creative director of an agency, a smaller agency, to go to Colorado as a copywriter. So I went down in title at Crispin Porter Bogusky. So there was a whole bunch of reasons why I wanted to make that move. And so I did that, and I really liked Crispin at the time. Was really great in that they it didn't matter where you were coming from. You came as a copywriter and art director, and it just proved that people were there to make and be about the work versus just to manage people, whatever. So it wasn't unheard of. So I went and did that. I remember right when I got there. It was a little unorganized, and it was I was in a desk that was kind of by the printer that's clearly somebody just put there because it was in the hallway, and it was a week. No one talked to me for a week. I was just this sucks, and I was my family was back in Utah, and I was all sad. Anyway, someone came by and was here, they need more people on this Volkswagen brief, and so I was oh cool, I've got something to do. So I just sat there with my headphones on, and I wrote. Didn't talk to anybody. I just had this one sheet of paper, and I wrote these scripts for this some sales event, and then the traffic person came and got those from me and then took them away. I didn't even present them to a creative director or anything. And then literally 2 weeks later, I just got put on an email with a producer to talk about we're going to look at director reels. So I was oh, apparently. And they had been, I guess, the reason it sticks out to me is they had been on round 4. They'd been having a hard time selling something through. So I just happened to come in with a fresh perspective of not knowing anything, and happened to, get really lucky on that first stab and sold the whole campaign through. And so that one was really exciting for me. And I think at that time in my life and making that move, I really needed that little vote of confidence, because I was pretty convinced. In fact, I told my wife when we moved out there, don't sell the house, let me see, this will probably last 2 weeks before they fire me, So that one was one that stands out to me as being all right. And also I think because that was the first time I'd ever worked on a major account. Previous to working on Volkswagen at Crispin, it was a lot of small local things, really. Yeah. So that was all of a sudden that's big. Yeah. And I remember I had to fake it on that first shoot. They were just yeah, come on. I'm the biggest shoot I've been on, I was the cameraman. Okay. Yeah. So it was a whole new world of me just pretending I was oh yeah, let's, here's what we're doing, and not trying to act what am I doing?
I mean, that's interesting because I don't know, maybe you and I are the only two people in the world who've ever had that feeling of being on a job that you're just how am I here? How is this happening?
I feel that way every day.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, I worked I come from broadcast, you interviewed me, I come from broadcast. And so I would end up on shoots with celebrities and just be like, I was unemployed last week because I was freelance, and I was just like, how am I here with Kevin Hart, like in a tiny room? It's very weird. Can you think of like any other instances where you were like, not in over your head, but you definitely, you saw the challenge and you were able to rise to the occasion in a setting that was very new to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I historically in my career have always gotten myself in positions before I really should be in them. And I think that's probably the way that I've done it, is just like, I have no business being a CD at that time, but I was there, and then I'm like, oh, I got to figure it out. But I recall when I was at Crispin, I ran the Best Buy account, and they started doing the Super Bowl commercial, which is every year Super Bowl commercials, and I know in advertising, everyone's like, that's the best thing ever. It is the worst thing to do, to work on, because it just, nothing is more, the
approval's got to be,
and then you do not have Christmas, it kills your holiday, and everything. Anyway, so there was one instance where I remember distinctly standing in a room and just being like, what is how is this? And it was, I don't even remember what the original script was, but anyway, Christmas Eve, we had to just rewrite something, and somehow we ended up with this concept that involved Justin Bieber and Ozzy Osbourne. And like, we already had a director and everything, so we were like pivoting, like this is, and just trying to make all these weird puzzle pieces fit to save the.
I remember this spot. I remember seeing this spot. I know what you're talking about.
So it was just like, okay, I think this makes sense, because it wasn't like getting to start from scratch. It was like, oh, this is the most crazy puzzle that we got to put together. And I remember sitting on that set and just sitting there, and Justin Bieber, and this was like 09 maybe, or 010, he was still massive, but this was pre kind of him getting crazy and stuff. So he was just really kind of a difficult, snooty kid,
Yeah,
and then,
I've heard he was really tough during that era.
And then Osbourne. Ozzy's there, like super, it was funny once Ozzy came out, like the crew, like pretty much like bowed down to him. And it was funny to watch Bieber kind of go, whoa, this is a real legend in the room. And anyway, that production in general, and we pulled it off. Like, it actually ended up making sense, and it did really well. And but that was one where I'm like, I have no idea how in a matter of days we somehow convinced these two guys to be together in a room and make this thing make sense. But I think the reality is like, that's a bit extreme, and I know my wife would attest to this. It's nice to have your holidays, so I wouldn't promote, being like working over Christmas for 4 years in a row to make Super Bowl commercials. But that's really, I think, the key to creative, is this process, and just respecting and believing and trusting in it. Because, like, for example, like, we had full on wrote some scripts and tested them and went in, and you want it to be like, that's great, they approve it, now we get a director to approve it, versus the real process, if you're really good at being a creative in this business, is like, you can predict nothing. The process will be chaotic, it'll be full of curveball, everything will blow up. But if you can stick through that, and I think being someone who's like, there's always momentum. Every brick wall has a crack if you're willing to find it. And just and be able to go, okay, this is going to throw me off my original plan, but let me figure out where I can make this really great. By doing that, that's the process, and then it ends basically when the media is due.